begin our program. It's a very nice occasion that all the distinguished people are gathered at the same place virtually. It is a great honor of the ICARDA International Center for Agricultural Research in the dryland area and the NCCRC to welcome all our dignitaries in these occasions of the stakeholder meeting. We are very lucky. Today we have dignitaries and the experts from China, USA, Singapore, Italy, Rome, Egypt, Morocco, Tanzania, Ghana. So, the dignitaries, speakers, and the participants are from the different parts of the countries. I give a very quick overview of the program and not spending a more time, but today our program started at 2 p.m. of the Indian time. And it's a different time zone in the different countries. So thank you so much, all the dignitaries, all the experts who are wake up the early in the morning. Especially thanks to Prime Minister Office who gave us the opportunity to invite him, and they accept our invitations and they are with us. So first session is the inaugural session. Then we have 3 technical sessions. Each session have 3 presentations, and then we have 3 panel discussions. So I request all the senior dignitaries and experts, as per the time schedules, we just cover our presentations in that time limit, so we can come at the 6 o'clock on the end. So I'm not taking a more time, but now I request to Ajit Govind from the ICARDA for the welcome speech, and followed by I request Honorable Advisor to our Prime Minister Office or PM India, respected Amarjit Sinha sir, for his inaugural address. So first I request to Ajit Govind for welcome speech. Ajit ji.
Hello everyone, greetings from Cairo. I am Ajit Govind. I'm working with ICARDA, and so as you attend this webinar, you'll understand the gravity of the issue, which is climate change. It is one of the most important geophysical phenomena that has affected humanity in the recent times, and this climate change has far-reaching implications on a lot of sectors, including which has a direct impact on the livelihoods of people. And most of the people are located in the dry and semi-arid regions of the world, and we need to have a discussion on how and explore the climate adaptation or the mitigation roadmap that could lead to sustainable development goals. In this context, ICARDA and the National Council for Climate Change, Sustainable Development and Public Leadership, NCCD, has joined together to put together a program to invite learned and very expert people from different sectors and a range of stakeholders from the academia, national research system, international organizations, and the private sector and civil society to come together and discuss and create and crystallize an output of how to address and explore climate adaptation and mitigation in the drylands towards achieving sustainable development goals. I'll be brief here, and because we have to think about the time, limited time we have. So I welcome all of you, and let's have a fantastic discussion today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ajit Govind. Now I request Prime Minister of the Government of India, Dr. Amarjit Sinha. He is an advisor to Prime Minister, and he is an Indian Administrative Services Officer of the Bihar cadre of the 1983 batch. He retired as the Secretary and from the Department of Rural Development, Government of India, and he has 36 years of the experience in the Government of India, largely in the social sector. And today we are all lucky he is with us. And I request Honorable Amarjit Sinha ji for his inaugural address. Sir.
Respected Dr. Shelat, respected Nishaji, all the participants in the conference. I must say that it's a very humbling experience to sit among such distinguished faculty from all over the world discussing the issue of climate change. I am afraid I cannot match your academics because the exposure that I have, like a practitioner, my learning has been on the field. So what we do acquire and learn from people as we work in different parts of the country is experiential learning. It so happens that climate change and climate resilient agriculture affects each and every person. And for that reason, whatever jobs we do in the sphere of public domain, all of them directly or indirectly connect with the challenge of sustainable agriculture, with the challenge of climate resilient agriculture, and most importantly, with the challenge of livelihoods. Friends, I recall even now, 36 years ago, when one began the journey in a tribal district of Jharkhand area called Singhbhum, where the local tribals, they had only one demand. Don't give us wells, they don't work here. Give us farm ponds. They knew the rainfall, they knew where it will work, and when traditional wisdom and scientific scrutiny and knowledge came together, it gave rise to systems in many places which could provide protective irrigation and at the same time also facilitate vegetable cultivation on very, very large scale. Friends, the learning on climate resilient agriculture, one of the first experts that one got to interact with, many of you would have heard of him, Dr. P.R. Mishra, his experiment on Chakriya Vikas, where what he had emphasized was that the soil is capable of providing all the nutrients that are needed only if we plan appropriately, and his famous classification of the 5 Fs, forest, fiber, fruit, fodder, and food, that if we actually have a balance of the 5 Fs, we would be able to come to some sustainable agriculture. Thereafter, in various capacities and in various places, one got a chance to engage with this process, culminating finally in the last about 5-6 years in the rural development space with programs like the Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana, National Rural Livelihood Mission, and restructuring what was the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme into a durable asset program, into a program which focused on sustainable agriculture in a meaningful way. One of the first major decisions which Honorable Prime Minister had taken was that 60% of what we spend in such programs should be on agriculture and allied sectors. Also that if we focus on farm ponds, if we focus on vermicomposting, if we focus on fodder development, clearly we would have many wins. Some of those efforts in partnership with the social capital of the self-help groups, the women farmers under a program called the Mahila Kisan Sashактikaran Pariyojana. Even in Gujarat, the Shroff Foundation did some excellent work on this. Many other places we've had the chance to see the work of sustainable agriculture, from seed treatment to protective irrigation to a range of interventions which actually allow climate resilient agriculture to grow and prosper. Friends, clearly the challenges before this nation are huge, and when all resources work to a plan, when all resources work to the livelihoods of households in rain-fed areas, tremendous potential and possibilities are there. While there is a challenge of climate change, there are very sustainable, resilient ways of facing up to it. There are many examples from Gujarat where the thrust on farm ponds, where a thrust on a whole lot of other interventions has created sustainable agriculture and sustained growth in agriculture. Gujarat was one of the few states which recorded very high rates of growth in agriculture, largely because of diversification of sustainable agriculture and thrust on resilience. Likewise, in many rain-fed areas of the country, in the last, especially 10 years or so, There have been large-scale efforts and experiments at diversification. As many of you are aware, as a nation, we have more horticultural crops than grains. Today, our entire horticulture produce is far more than the grains we produce. And one of the reasons is the diversification that has been taking place in dryland areas, whether it is fruits and vegetables, whether it is pulses, a whole lot of other changes which have been brought in many parts of the country. Clearly, the challenges are many. Science and scientific scrutiny is the way forward. We have the experience of the zero budget natural farming, which in many parts of the country is being experimented, which in many parts of the country, in fact, Honorable Governor has been pushing that in in Himachal Pradesh and in Gujarat. And also we have had the learning from some of the experiments in Andhra Pradesh. So clearly the lessons from large projects like the Mahila Kisan Sashaktikaran Pariyojana for sustainable agriculture, the experimental projects that were taken up in Madhya Pradesh and Bihar in partnership with, as part of an Indo-German project on climate resilient agriculture, and some of the very meaningful community-led changes, because this is also a sector where we have to carry scientific scrutiny and traditional wisdom together. Because on a lot of the water cycle, the water balance, there are many lessons to be learned, subjecting some of the understanding of local communities to the strictest of scientific scrutiny to be able to develop resilient manner ways of taking the challenge of climate change effectively. Friends, all distinguished experts are here, and I can only say that while the debate on farm size and holdings will carry on, but what is important at this stage as a nation, already in the agriculture sector, we are in the realm of the surpluses, the case for value chains, the case, for example, Honorable Prime Minister was very keen on 2023 as the International Year of Millets. Now, here is an opportunity for rain-fed areas, for climate resilient agriculture. Millets, which is seen as grown primarily in the rain-fed areas, has outstanding nutritional values, has outstanding health values. As part of our climate resilient agriculture and as part of the International Year of Millets, if diversification and value addition and value chains for millet and millet products could be a thrust and focus, clearly many of the challenges for livelihoods, for diversification, for incomes of poor households can be addressed, because every major gain in a rain-fed area is a transformation of livelihoods. Clearly, the multi-tier cropping, not only agriculture seen in isolation, but in partnership with a lot of non-farm livelihoods as well, the thrust on fisheries, the focus on animal resources. When we look at the entire ecosystem within which marginal and small farmers in rain-fed areas, how we move them from subsistence agriculture to value addition on a large scale through farmer producer organizations and so on. A lot of the resilience has to be answered through social capital of communities, has to be answered through use of science and scientific scrutiny. There are many, many examples. If you go to Kutch and many of the villages that you see there, I had a chance to go and visit them. What transformation can happen only by when communities come together to decide how best it will build resilience, how best it will budget the water they use for their agriculture, and how best would they practice operations which are in consonance with the principles of resilience and sustainability. Friends, thank you very much for this opportunity to be here today as part of your consultation. I will try and spend some time listening to what all the experts have to say. And again, in all humility, it's a very, very humbling experience to be with so many experts from all over the world. all I had with me was the experiential learning of understanding how public policy gets developed and carved out, and also to share with you some of the learning which I have picked up in the course of footloose travel among communities and interaction with households, farmers, small peasants who are facing challenges of rain-fed agriculture in their own unique ways. Thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your time, and you encourage us. On behalf of all stakeholders, sir, we're really thankful to you, Dr. P.K. Mishraji and Prime Minister Office for all supports. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Now I request to Ashutosh Sarkar for his address. Dr. Ashutosh Sarkar, sir.
Yes, please. Namaskar, namaskar, Nishaji. Namaskar to all of you. My colleagues from ICARDA, Dr. Ajit and Dr. Vinay, they are very much here, and all my colleagues and friends from around the globe. And today we are here on a very important topic that we will be discussing, and we will develop a roadmap that how to come up with the climate agricultural, that adaptation and to climate change. I will share a very short presentation with you, and I have been asked to deliver here that how ICARDA is addressing those issues on climate change in South Asia. Okay. Nishaji, in this case, it is a host disabled participant screening and sharing. So,
you would like to make a presentation?
Okay, yeah, if it is not that, no problem. That yeah, I had a short presentation, but I'll speak on this, that issue. Yeah, no problem. No, yeah, I'll just. You see, as you know, that agricultural adaptation to climate change involves technologies, institutions. As my previous speaker has already mentioned, a lot of areas that we have to address those. In addition to that, we have involvement of different programs, government policies, capacity building of farmers, extension agents, and as well as all stakeholders. Then, of course, the community involvement is very much important. All these leads to that co-benefits to mitigation as well. And this requires inflow of new technology in the context of climate change, and it's a progressing event. And also that multi-stakeholder involvement, technology packaging, then synergy among different programs. These are very much important. ICARDA, the ICARDA stands for International Center for Agricultural Research in the Dry Areas. As we know that in India, about 60 to 62% station in Madhya Pradesh. It is in Sihor district. And we are working, a multidisciplinary team of scientists are working there in our research station. I am also involved personally in research as well as managing the ICARDA program for South Asia. There we are working on development of climate resilient pulses varieties, also in cereals like barley, then durum wheat. Then we also work on improving water productivity, cropping system, alternative cropping system, which will be remunerative to farmers, and then and also on conservation agriculture. Besides, we also work on another aspect that India is deficit of green fodder, as you know that even all these western states particularly, they are very much deficit of green fodder. About 30% or 35% of green fodder deficit is in India. So ICARD have very much introduced about more than 50 varieties from around the world, the spineless cactus, which are very much fit for an animal, animal fodder. And also that we are promoting them in Gujarat, in Bhuj, like in Rajasthan also, then in Jhansi, in Odisha, in Karnataka, in many semi-arid areas. Because we are not replacing other crops. We are introducing the spineless cactus in the areas where nothing can be grown, in weedy land, stony land, or any fallow land. One of our objectives in India that we are working on, that in the rice fallows, there are about 12 million hectares. Altogether, about 15 million hectares are there, which are highly vulnerable to climate change. Because of this shortening of season, we have to work on that also to develop short duration varieties. And we have now at our hand, and we are working with Indian Council of Agricultural Research, in that research, and also the state agricultural universities, to bring those technologies or develop these technologies in rice fallows, particularly the pulses, because there is only one monocrop is there in all Eastern Indian states, in Bangladesh, Nepal. We are now clubbing all together, and we are working to develop, to bring the technologies to intensify the system, the monocrop rice system. This is another one aspect that we are working. And also Dr. Binay will later on give an in-depth presentation on that. We are working in water productivity in Indira Gandhi Canal Command area, as well as in Khadin cultivation in Rajasthan. So all this together, that we have the technologies, as I mentioned earlier, that inflow of new technologies should be there based on the day-to-day need and due to climate change effect. For example, we are developing that heat-tolerant varieties of wheat, barley, as well as on pulses. So these are, that some of the technologies are already on the ground with the farmers, and some are also we are testing, evaluating in multi-locations. All this together, that we wish that all of us, not only the technologies, as I mentioned earlier, some other aspect like institutions, programs, policies, capacity development, all should be there in one. It should be a package of all these things to combat or to address those climate change effect. With this, I would like to stop here, that my colleagues, Dr. Ajit and Dr. Binay will elaborate later on. We are very much with the group, that we have gathered here, with this technological, or any kind of innovation that we can put forward in our forthcoming programs that we are going to develop. We are very much with you, and we'll be glad to be a part and parcel of this whole initiative in future. Thank you very much once again, and thank you and namaskar to all of you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ashutosh Sarkar, for your time and for your all support and cooperations. Now I request to Dr. Kiritan Shalat, Executive Chairman, NCCST, for his address. Shalat, sir.
Pranam, salute to all. I welcome all distinguished speakers, participants. Special welcome to Dr. Amarjit Sinha, advisable to Honorable PM. And we especially thank him to find time and address, because it conveys a very important message, that how much government, the Honorable Prime Minister himself, is concerned about agriculture, drylands, and its prosperity. We have this interaction on exploring climate adaptation, mitigation in dryland towards achieving SDG, and we are trying to build a roadmap for COP26, which is coming up soon. Before I go into my subject, I also welcome many distinguished speakers who are here, Dr. Tefri from USA, Dr. Govind Hariharan from KSU Atlanta, Professor Mukul Ashar, Ashwin Bhai, Shroff, Dr. Atre, Dr. Embuya from Pamo, USA, Dr. Richard from Ghana, Sri Atul Shroff, Dr. Sadamate, Dr. Pathak, Dr. Arunachalam, Dr. Bansal, and many others who have joined and whose presence makes two things clear. One, this is a subject in which there is an interest and there is a stake. And that stake is of stakeholders, and we are all stakeholders. Now, very briefly about NCCST. This was created out of an international conference on climate change, which we organized. And it is headed by Justice Bisweshwar Singh, who is former judge of Supreme Court of India. Our mentors are Dr. M.S. Swaminathan, Sri Purushottam Rupala, Sri Kantishan Shroff, and our council members include distinguished persons like Professor Y.S. Rajan, Professor Dimri, Dr. Gopi Chandran, Dr. Arunachalam, Professor Mukul Ashar, Dr. Govind Hariharan, and others. Our mission is to promote sustainable livelihood in arena of climate change with involvement of public leadership. Emphasis is on capacity building of all stakeholders, use of knowledge economy. Its focus is on agriculture and farmers. We are a think tank organization and advocates for farmers, agriculture, and rural development. The major adverse impact of intense climate events, which are increasing, not that they were not there, we had droughts, but they are increasing with intensity in last decade, is on farmers and farmland and villages, particularly of dryland area. While irrigated areas come out from it, dryland area, there is a problem because global warming is an international phenomenon, but it is farmer who agricultural land, livestock, fisheries are affected. His source of livelihood is at stake. Majority of landholders are smallholders, are below or on margin of poverty line, and they go into further poverty. Agriculture, vegetation absorbs CO2 and releases oxygen. It is a major tool for mitigation. Agriculture absorbs CO2 through photosynthesis process and provides food, fruits, vegetables, and glucose. CO2 gets stored into land. There is no other technology by which CO2 can be absorbed or glucose can be produced. But it is, however, not prioritized in international climate deliberations and for financial support by international financial organizations. While non-agriculture activities like manufacturing, housing, infrastructure, road, ports, mines, transport are major sources of creation of CO2 and related gas emissions, the experts forget that when they displace agriculture land or forest land, they reduce absorption of CO2. But experts do not recognize this, nor do they consider agriculture as a major mitigation tool, and therefore agriculture remains to be prioritized in UNFCCC deliberation. NCCST through deliberation in COP platform since 2012 has successfully convinced the decision makers at UNFCCC the role of agriculture and for food security and livelihood and mitigation. And we are happy that in recent days, the UNFCCC has started paying attention to agriculture. Now, I will very briefly deal with Indian scene. I'll take about 2 minutes, then I will be followed by Nisa, who will give us 2 case studies. First is that India was a drought-stricken country. We had famines and famines. And if we talk about India or we talk about Gujarat, it is same in those days. In Gujarat, we used to have 3 consecutive droughts. And this was as late as 80s. In 80s, when I was district development officer of Rajkot, we had 2 years, there was not a drop of water. And cattle used to be migrated 500 kilometers to South Gujarat where fodder was available. All this has been turned around by a very determined efforts by the political will, with administrative will, and with people's participation. Gujarat launched a major program of water harvesting, which was mentioned by Honorable Advisor. We constructed 100,000 check dams and equal number of farm ponds in all this area. So every drop of water was stored. This increased the moisture. Second, we have a huge dam called Sardar Sarovar Dam, which is in Rajpipla. And we brought water, drinking water by pipelines to more than 1,000 villages which were affected by water scarcity every year to supply drinking water around the year. Third, we launched a major comprehensive agriculture extension program called Krishi Mahotsav, where farmers were met at doorstep, provided agriculture inputs and agriculture guidance. All this was backed by a major livestock program. We have district mill unions with 14,000 cooperative societies, and each society has more than 100 members, and the milk is collected at doorstep and payment is made weekly. All this transformed Gujarat agriculture, and from zero to minus agriculture growth, we are now reaching to a growth of 8% per average. And this is happening in dryland areas of Gujarat and our adjoining state, even Rajasthan and other areas of our country. Now, current mission as laid down by Honorable Prime Minister is twofold. One, make double the income of farmer, whether it is irrespective of climate change and its adverse impact, irrespective of impact of COVID phenomenon. Second, make farmers self-reliant. And Government of India has supported this with huge funding for infrastructure, for livestock development, fisheries development, massive credit, direct cash credit, cash amount to be credited in farmers' account, promotion of farmers producer organization, both cooperatives and other organizations. All this is changing the scenario of the country.
Thank you so much, Madam Nisha. So I'm just filling in for Dr. Ashutosh Sarkar, who is our regional director for South Asia and China, but he traveled to the US last night and When he joined us this morning, it was 4:30 a.m. in New York, and he was jet lagged. So I'll just take the floor and thank you all. I just want to tell that how this all came together. Dr. Kirit Shelat and I co-organized an event at the previous COP meeting in Madrid on dryland agriculture and the burning issues. And we had speakers from GAXA, we had speakers from FAO, from Chinese Academy of Agricultural Sciences, and it was very well received. And what we found was that this was a burning topic which was not receiving enough attention and needed to be brought forward. And that led to this conversation between NCCSD and us, trying to see how we can prepare better, taking an agenda forward to the next COP meeting. We don't know if it will be in person or virtual, but this was in preparation for that to capture the take-home messages in through a series of dialogues. And this webinar is first amongst those, focusing exclusively on South Asia and more predominantly on water issues. Like we know, water is the main limiting factor of production in these regions. So if we can tackle water management issues, if we can bring water saving technologies, half the battle is won. So that led to this webinar, and I've been attending since the start, and I'm really pleased with the speakers, the material that was presented, and a variety of flavors. Like we got to hear so many speakers bringing in their points of views and their experiences and their innovations, which are all adaptable. They are all applicable to the context of the developing countries and the drylands, especially of the South Asia. ICARDA is significantly present in South Asia. India is our regional hub. We have a big research station in Madhya Pradesh. We work closely in Rajasthan and in other parts like West Bengal and Orissa and other places. So I just wanted to touch upon that. And also, research is increasingly becoming multidisciplinary, and it's mostly co-designing of solutions now. You can't just work in isolation in a university or a lab and hope that you understand the end user's perspective. So that user experience is really important to capture. It's the co-designing, and from the very beginning, having the stakeholder in mind and their inputs. What are the enabling environments required? What are the adoption barriers? Why does it make sense to a scientist but not to a farmer to adopt something? So co-designing of solution, buy-in of solutions by the end user, co-investment of time and effort and financial support. All these things have to be taken into account going forward if you want to develop practical climate smart solutions, especially for the dryland countries. So thank you so much for participating in this. Thank you so much, NCCSD, for collaborating with us. I think it's just the beginning of a long partnership, and we made some new contacts, new friends today. We came across several new people. So we look forward to networking with them and hopefully collaborate with them too. So thank you so much. With that, I'll stop talking and I'll give the floor to Dr. Kirit Shelat. Thank you.